In the off chance that you didn't receive the memo from the title of the video, I'm going to be expressing some thoughts and asking for feedback from your experiences later. It's far from a secret that this game has the unfortunate tendency to stoke up the fires of controversy and emotion. If you're here often, you know I usually try to remain on the gray side of things, leaning a bit towards the positive end. The reason being, if the only thing you bring to the table is whinging, you should probably go sit somewhere else before you overstay your welcome. However, a man has his limits, and I happen to have found mine by experiencing enemies both walk and shoot through walls. Again. And I don't mean again as in twice or even 3 times in a single day. I mean again as in, this has been an ever-present problem, irrespective of patches, since the inception of this game. It's led me to sit down and assess why we keep coming back to this game when it's put together with the consistency of a soup sandwich. I'm also going to attempt the impossible and look for a solution that makes everyone happy. That's mostly what we're talking about today. I think the largest benefactor retaining players is the game has genuine allure. When this game plays out in the way that it's designed to, the results are, by no exaggeration of the word, sensational. It became a goddamn supernova because it offered both experiences and gameplay that nobody else could offer. Everyone and their dog was playing because it was just that good. It wasn't simply the maps, guns, skins. I guess I should probably widen the scope and say it wasn't solely due to how the game itself played, but it was also about how the game was conducted. We had so many years of DLCs making you pay $20 for a single skin and maybe a gun. Here's looking at you with hate in my eyes, EA and Activision. We had forgotten what actual quality was. There was a way to purchase in-game currency, but it was actually reasonable for once. Not only that, if you didn't want to purchase it, you were entirely free to earn it in your own time. We had our own time to spend it on everything as well, because no items ever truly expire with the rotating shop and war bond. No need for a gimmick battle pass to force timely engagement. It was finally hung out to dry, and that old trope hopefully dies here, but we all know it won't. Players were allowed to enjoy at their own pace and difficulty, and it was beautiful. Sure, there were problems, but the game was a baby then, so who could really blame them? Then a month or so passed, and the rose-tinted glasses started to get a little dull. It was still in its infancy though, so despite the problems starting to creep in, those of us that were reasonable thought, you know what, fair enough. They had no way to predict this success, and these people have never done something like this before. Give them a month or two and things will begin to shape up. Then months were given, and the same ailments from the beginning persisted. Through all the balance changes and patches, it felt like a game of 3-card Monty. You fall under the impression that the problem's been solved, but it's simply been foisted off into a different hand only to come back later. It felt like the decay rates not only applied to planets, but they applied to the patches as well. I used to be staunchly of the opinion that every patch was a step in the right direction. That was a mistake. It was a mistake born of thinking that my experience was the definitive experience of everyone else who was playing, and that was simply not true. I came to this realization once I showed a few recent matches that I was plagued by bugs in. Although this was the first time I had encountered them, the case would turn out to be that others had been having these issues for months at that point. I would like to take this moment to speak specifically to anyone who feels they have had an experience relatively devoid of issues thus far, or even recently. First of all, good job. You're able to enjoy the game to its peak, and I bet it feels amazing. I entirely understand why you would be confused by this talk. Like, my game feels great. But I am likely hearing more personal testimony on what is and what is not currently broken than you are. And it seems to be affecting people completely at random. These problems have been both widespread and rather aggressive for a lot of people. For them, it feels like every patch is one step forward and two steps back. That means they often dread changes because it usually has the effect of introducing a new problem that they now need to circumvent. This brings us to what I think really is the biggest hindrance for the success of this venture. It's the overwhelming amount of inconsistency. When it works correctly, it's a downright unparalleled success. When the bugs begin to show themselves mid-mission, enjoying yourself becomes a Herculean feat. It's one thing for the game to perform poorly when it comes down to things like number values and enemy density, because you can create a workaround. When it comes to bugs, all you can really do is hope today isn't your unlucky day. It sucks. It really sucks, but by their own hand, they have forced their future into a state of insecurity. It's to the point where a lot of us walk into a patch wondering what's going to go wrong as a result of the fixes made, as opposed to, oh yeah, more fixes. I can't recall the last time we had a game so good that we decided to grin and bear these issues, as opposed to throwing it out with the bathwater. So, the commendation, as far as this game, as it's played properly, is outstanding. The issue is just the inherent problems therein that make you unable to play. And the game is a victim of something that impedes so many things these days. It's an excellent idea with terrible execution. Every time I tell someone about this game, it feels like I'm reciting the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. So what do we do about this? I've got three options, with one being some fashion of middle ground. Option number one is the standard choice for any consumer who doesn't like the product they were receiving. You can leave. If you love the core gameplay, but you can't stick around due to bugs or poor business decisions, here are some alternative games. The initial best choice is probably Deep Rock Galactic. They definitely lean more into the silliness and fantasy, but it helps to cut down on the feeling of unbridled chaos. Another option is World War Z. It leans more into the horde shooter aesthetic than anything else, and the gameplay can absolutely get a bit repetitive. After about a dozen or so hours, you're kind of doing the same thing over and over again. I want to fully preface that. It can get boring quick if you're not with friends. But if you're still looking for those semi-unique enemies while hopping on the struggle bus, that'll do. However, I believe there's a better option in the works. Space Marine 2 is going to be arriving September 9th, and if it lives up to what we have been led to expect, it will arrive with cacophonous applause. Just a reminder though, we don't pre-order in this household, and neither should you. Option number two is for the real die-hard fans. Rely on both luck and a determination to outlast the struggles and stumbling on the way to this becoming a complete game. Option number three is probably the most logical. When you get broadsided by nonsense like your friends list disappearing, don't tolerate it. Turn your focus to something else for the day or so. If you come back and it's still an issue, next time take a week off. You don't owe it to anybody to play a game that's broken for you. Come back every so often, checking in to see if there is suitable changes, or at least suitable to your liking, or until you no longer feel the need to come back at all. I'll keep it a buck. We are likely going to see a pivot in this channel towards Warhammer, and realistically, it's going to lead me to producing far better content for you guys, because there's such an expansive universe of possibilities. Warhammer is a big, initially daunting place, but don't worry. I am new to the fold, and I know exactly what it's like to be introduced to all of this, and therefore, I can organize it in a way that's not overwhelming for a lot of you new people. And I guarantee you the diehard veterans will find something to appreciate in it as well. I used to be an Overwatch player, so I'm all too familiar with empty promises and blind faith leading to fruitless endeavors, and I don't intend to do that again with this game. I'm sorry. That's simply the fact of the matter. They have until early September to figure it out. So, somewhere within the next month, expect to see a directional adjustment in preparation for the Warhammer game. And don't worry, you'll still be getting your update and general information videos for a while. I want to keep up with this at least until the Illuminate. Hopefully they are here relatively soon, but more importantly, hopefully the game gets patched up properly. Now is when the microphone gets handed to you. Hop in the comments and express your general opinions on the current state of Helldivers, or how you would feel about the Warhammer change, whether they be disappointment or adulation. All I ask is that you keep it respectful, because if you don't, YouTube throws your comment in the dumpster unbeknownst to me anyway. If you're still interested in Helldivers or possibly other games, feel free to hop in the Discord server and the channel information if you're old enough. There's usually plenty of people in there to play with, and if not, you can just sit down and have a discussion with them. Other than that, I think we're all wrapped up for today. Stay safe and have a good night.